Hey everyone, welcome back to One Up FBA here on YouTube. Today I'm with my student Aryan, who joined our program back in October, so roughly a year ago. I felt now would be a really great time to catch up, see how his business is going, any hurdles he's gone through with his wholesale business. Have a handful of questions, so I'm excited to dive into it. But Aryan, do you just want to quickly introduce yourself and how you got into Amazon?
My name is Aryan. I've been in the business, Amazon for the past 2 years. So around, October of 2022, that's when I really started. I started from my student dorm and I was getting, packages from OA websites and everything. And I was pretty much, flipping it on Amazon. I was selling this OTC product and it had a high demand, but there was low supply. So I was selling it at a really, really good ROI. And I was like, this could be very serious. So I started selling more and all that. So then I decided to quit my job and do this full time, which was one of the best decisions that I've ever made.
So, Aryan, just as some general background, did you have any reselling experience? Like, I come from like a thrifting eBay type of background, got into Amazon. Did you do any
Nothing.
local flips, Facebook Marketplace that got you into e-commerce?
No, I had my first flip on online websites through Amazon. I had no background of eBay or whatsoever. So Amazon was the first thing that I started.
So, Aryan, when you hopped into my coaching program, like kind of the end of October, beginning of November, I recall you were primarily doing online arbitrage at the time. You had like products all over the place, buying leads from all over the place, and you're also kind of dabbling into like some A to A flips. Is that correct? Kind of like arbitraging different listings on Amazon by sourcing from Amazon directly. What was that like, and what was like the main reason you decided to transition into wholesale specifically? Was there anything you didn't like about those business models at scale?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was around September or October of 2023.
Yeah.
That's when I was getting a lot of cancellation on the order because I was going deep on certain products from the website. So they would cancel my order and I would put all this, work to find these leads because back then I was finding my own leads. And that's something that I recommend to most guys. If you're doing OA, you should be finding your own leads. You should not rely to somebody else, to find leads for your business. So, I was finding these leads and all that. They would either tank because I did not have the best price, and you don't. That's just the reality because the retailer that you're buying from, they're getting it at the best price. They're getting it at the wholesale, and you will be, paying a much higher price. But you're not. Your price is not good enough to compete with this, big wholesale guys, and they're gonna crush you in the buy box. So, at some point, I was losing money, and I was just thinking, you know, what's gonna be my next step? Am I gonna quit this, or am I gonna jump into wholesale and figure this out? So, I can be a part of it and I can get things at a better price and I can scale this, to a much higher level.
Do you feel like your prior experience with like OA and all the ADA, did that at least give you like a good foundation of learning kind of the ecosystem of Amazon, getting products into Amazon? I started with retail online, like retail arbitrage primarily, and then kind of jumped over OA. Not that it's a ladder system necessarily, but I found with the retail arbitrage, you're going store to store. It's exhausting. You have to find more stores, that type of thing. It got to a point where I had probably more capital I was trying to deploy than I could at the stores, or they only had 10 on a shelf or something. But did you find that did help kind of build that initial foundation?
Oh, absolutely. I would advise to most people, to most Amazon sellers, if they're starting this, I think the first few months should be focusing on OA so they understand how Amazon works. Then after that, they should start getting into wholesale because it's not a quick process. It takes a while, and most of it is a mental game. But yeah, I mean, it helped me quite a bit because back then, I was ungated on most stuff. I knew a little bit about the IP stuff, account health, and all that. So I had a better understanding.
So, are you, at the time you joined, roughly what were you doing in sales when you were doing like A to A flips, OA? But on an average, where were you at, near the end of last year when you jumped in the program?
So I was doing around 25 or 30,000 in sales. I had one good month of 45,000, and that was because I had a lucky product. But I was doing consistently like 25 to 30K per month.
So from where you were at, have you made 100% transition into wholesale? What does your business look like today? Are you doing any OA at all sprinkled in, or is it 100% wholesale or working with brands and suppliers?
So my business, as of right now, I can say that it's 100% wholesale. I don't have a single product that's OA. Um, the good thing about wholesale is once you jump in and you have an account where you can work with them and you order products from them every 2 weeks or once a month, you have so many opportunities that you don't ever need to go back to OA and look for leads.
And then in terms of revenue, like where are you at now? And we had spoken just before the call. So you recently placed one of the largest purchase orders you have. Just in the past 2 weeks, you placed a huge purchase order. What is that looking like?
So in the past 2 weeks, I placed a $65,000 order with my distributor,
That's all.
which is a little bit more than a truckload. That half of it was delivered, and the other half is coming in the next few days. But it's this has been a very life-changing moment. Just thinking that I'm doing a FTL, a full truckload worth of inventory being sent to Amazon. It just feels awesome. But speaking of revenue, so in the past year, back in October and November and December, I was doing consistently, 30K and all that. This month, I'm about to close about 65 or 60, 60,000 in sales, in revenue, which is awesome. And in the next 2 months, I'm hoping that number to be even larger because I have enough inventory for the next 2 months.
That's awesome. Yeah, that $65,000 order, when that checks in, that potential, we're talking maybe six-figure potential, maybe if everything checks.
Possible.
You could be up there in the 80s, 90s, and the 100. Do you remember how much your first purchase order was? Like just for people watching, getting into the business, jumping into wholesale with their first maybe distributor or small brand. What was that? We're talking $65,000 orders, right? You've come a really long way in the past year, but what did this look like? Like, in the trenches, your first couple phone calls, placing your first few POs, roughly how much do you remember spending on those first initial orders?
So initially, I started with 3 companies. So I would just test them out and order from them, and hoping that they would work with me in the future orders. I
Mhm.
believe the first a few orders with my suppliers were around $3,000 to $5,000. And with one of the suppliers that I currently work with, and I have a really good relationship with them, my third order with them was $16,000
Oh wow!
because I
So you
was yeah
jumped above 10,000 pretty quickly with them.
yeah because I was able to negotiate with them since I was doing high volume.
So are you kind of jumping ships here? What was it like in the early stages of business, reaching out to these suppliers, trying to open accounts? What was that process like? Was there any challenges you faced? Did you have any extended periods of time where you went on a dry spell, feeling like you were just getting shut down?
I joined the program around end of October, but my main focus in the next 2 months was just focusing on OA and finishing it off because I was not ready for wholesale yet. So around February, that's when I started reaching out to some of these companies and wanted to work with them. I would say for OA and RA sellers who are listening to this, I would say 80% of this is a mental game.
Yeah,
You have to believe that out of that 50 calls that you're going to make, there's going to be two or three that are going to say yes, and they're willing to work with you. But you just have to play your cards right. And when I joined the program gave me a good understanding with different methods to approach the suppliers, this massive distributors and all that to land the account. I think trade show is a great way to do it because you're meeting them in person, you're shaking hands, you kind of get to know them, they know you're legit, you have a business card and all that. That's one great way to do it instead of, let's say you live in Oklahoma and you're contacting a company who is like in Maine and you want to work with them. There there's not really a direct relationship with them. Yeah,
I
they're not
agree.
going to really value you as much. The better way to do it would be, contacting your, local supplier down in Oklahoma, or some other suppliers that are around the states. That's the best way to do it, in my opinion, and that's something that has worked for me.
So, Aryan, when it comes to placing your purchase orders and prepping your product, did you decide to do all of your prep? You had mentioned you were working out of a dorm when you were selling your online arbitrage product. Uh, so, are you still doing all of your own prep today, or did you add in a prep center as you scaled with the volume of wholesale?
I don't prep my products at all. I would rather have a prep center than me prepping all my products, because just recently I sent 14 pallets to Amazon, and it would take me days to prep those products and ship it to here. And I live in Nevada, Las Vegas. So I would say for most people, when they start, they should work with a prep center as close to their distributor or supplier, and just do that until they scale, until they get to a very big number that it makes sense for them to have a warehouse. But it's not necessary to have a warehouse when you first start. I would 100% recommend prep center.
When you utilize a prep center, you can basically focus all of your time onto just like working on your business and not just sitting there, prepping all day. We personally warehouse everything, and I would be lying to you to say it's the easiest thing in the world. It's not. Your standard operating procedures, hiring and firing, building teams. There are pros and cons to each one, but by the sounds of it, outsourcing just all of that headache to a prep center has really helped you grow and solidify those relationships.
So I would say for a beginner, the best thing is to have a prep center, unless they're working with a local supplier and they can get a small warehouse where they can prep their own products, or hire somebody to do that. That's another way to do it. But for most people, if you're doing it high volume, and you're buying, like, let's say 10 pallets for 2 weeks and all that, I would say 100% prep center, and focus your time building that relationship with your sales rep, and look for more inventory to buy and all that.
Switching topics here, Aryan. So, in terms of the landscape of your business today, how many suppliers would you say you are actively buying from? Are you working with any brands or pursuing any brands right now, or mainly just all your capital is going to some solidified relationships? What does it look like? How many companies?
So I currently work with 2 suppliers, and with one of them, I mainly, place large orders, over 5 figures and all that. And to everyone who says, wholesale is dead, wholesale is not dead. The opportunity is there. You just have to work hard, and you will get there.
In the early stages of wholesale, what did supplier outreach look like for you? And what did you find to be the best way to land those suppliers?
I would say for me, mainly was a trade show, and the second one was calling them, directly calling them. And when I say calling them, it's not like saying, "Hey, can you please send me a UPC list? What does your catalog look like?" and all that. That's not how you approach those, big suppliers and everything, because they can already tell that you're an Amazon seller. Phone call is the best way to do it. That way, they kind of know that you're serious about it, and shows a little bit of a confidence, instead of sending a cold email to them and just hoping for it to work.
The classic, I hope this email finds you well.
Right, yeah.
No, don't do
Exactly.
emails don't typically find people well, guys. So you can do email outreach, but I've always just jumped right into, if there's a vendor or a supplier I see online and I really want to pursue them, I'm picking up the phone, calling. And just kind of a tip for people watching is, be mindful before you go off some crazy script calling these companies that, landing accounts is about having conversations, but don't go off on the person that just answers the phone. Make sure you're speaking to the right person at these companies, okay? The receptionist might not have the answer for, hey, can I buy this and this of this brand and all of these things. Like, that is a very quick way to either get hung up on, or they're like, I don't know, I can't help you with that. So call these companies, mention, what it is you're looking to do, what type of business you run, and ask them a couple questions about, is this something you would have the answer to, or is there somebody, you could transfer me to that would better be able to assist some of my questions. All right, so Aryan, kind of hopping ships here. Well, what is your software stack looking like today? Like, what on a daily basis, what's Aryan using to find product, calculate all your profits, and what's your software stack looking like?
So I don't really have a lot of fancy stuff. I would say Keepa is number one.
Yeah.
I think every Amazon seller should have that. Second one is going to be ref seller. Third one is going to be seller board, and the fourth one is going to be QuickBooks, so you track your expenses and all that. I think like for most people when they're getting into this business, one of the misunderstanding that they have is like having too many softwares and everything.
Hmm.
Your main focus should be, landing the account. The software is not going to help you to land the account and everything. So it's just a tip. Don't focus too much on getting, new softwares and everything. Stick to the ones that are necessary, like Keepa, RevSeller. Some people use Smart Scout because they're trying to go, brand direct. That's another good one. I'm just not there yet, so I can't speak of it.
Sure.
But those are the four that I, mainly use on, daily basis.
So, Aryan, did you make any critical mistakes in the process of scaling with wholesale? Just as some examples, like any cash flow issues, capital issues, bad buys.
I think this is like a mistake that like all these Amazon sellers are guilty of, and that's like going deep on certain products.
Yeah.
I bought too much of a seasonal product and I went too deep on it. So it's currently sitting at a prep center. And another thing is, as you scale in this business, it is very easy to spend 10, 20, 30, or 40, 50 grand. But you need to understand your cash flow. It takes quite a bit for Amazon to check in your stuff. You sell the stuff and then get your money back. So you don't want to spend too much and not have the cash. And that actually happened to me. Max out my business cards, and I had to pay another $15,000 to my supplier. I didn't have the money, so I had to take a line of credit, which I'm paying interest on it. Understanding your cash flow, I think, is the second hardest part of wholesale. The first part that you're going to be facing with is going to be inventory, but inventory is not really the problem. It's only the problem the first few months when you're into the wholesale. The
Yeah.
second thing is you have all these opportunities in front of you, right? You want to buy all this inventory that are like good, profitable, that you have access to it. But the problem is you don't have the cash for it. So you don't want to overspend. You want to wait until you get your cash back and then, kind of invest into your business. So my biggest issue right now is, cash flow. I have all these opportunities in front of me. I'm kind of tight on cash because I've spent so much.
Yeah, I've always seen, especially in my personal business and working with like hundreds of people in the past couple of years, is, and it sounds like that's kind of what you're saying, is wholesale. It's kind of an interesting business model because it's like very front loaded on the work end. Like the beginning is like trying to get your supplier relationships, maybe going to a trade show. But once some of those relationships click and you get a few purchase orders and you start seeing, as you find products that do well for you, then you just start seeing all the opportunity. In almost every seller will run into this. Is like, I always say, when the opportunity presents itself, you're going to run out of cash before you run out of product opportunities. And then you're like, okay, can I use 0%, APR cards? Can I get a line of credit? Can I restock some of these products with, a loan safely? And that's kind of where some people can get over leveraged, in the business. And it's really something you got to be mindful of. But sounds like kind of what you're saying is just be mindful of wholesale. You're purchasing a lot more bulk than 5, 10, 15, 20 pieces. The liquidity of an OA business, and it spins around so quick. But kind of the downside is you might not be able to go back and order that same item again. So if you're going to be going deeper on your products, just be mindful that it is a longer sell through, and you don't want to triple up on your POs quite as fast as you would in like a OA business chasing leads all day.
Absolutely, you're right.
Aryan, in terms of like delegation, have you hired any virtual assistants to help provide leads from your supplier spreadsheets, or are you actively delegating to anybody other than your prep center to outsource your prep?
I pretty much do everything myself. So as of right now, I don't really have a VA, and I'm not planning to get one because I like to have the responsibility and have the control of my business. But everybody's business model and the way they operate is different. But I can't speak of the future. But anytime soon, I don't think I will be hiring a VA. It's not on my top list.
So, has negotiation on like all your products become like an everyday thing on your purchase orders now?
Main thing that you would want to focus on in wholesale, and it's going to be your supplier relationship. The better relationship that you have with your sales rep, the better discount you're gonna get. So in the first few orders when I first started, I didn't really ask him that. But on the fourth one, I started asking, hey, I'm going a little bit deeper on some of this stuff. I think we could like squeeze in, a 15% discount. And they actually came back to me and said, hey, 15 is not realistic. I think we can do 12%. I said, okay, that works, and we will take it. And that just comes with time, because you should think, you kind of need to think about it like, when you're working with them, they don't know you. It takes a while. You need to understand where they're coming from. They don't know you. Why do you think you deserve a discount? Why do you think they should give you 20% off? You have not provided any value to them. You're not ordering consistently through them. So these are the things that I would say you should keep in mind before asking those, discounts. And another thing, when it comes to discounts, if 30%, 50% discount, it's not really realistic. Even ask them, hey, what's your, how much room you have on this product and everything. But like, it's very unrealistic to think like, hey, I want 30% off my purchase order. It's That's not how, really it's going to work, because they're in the business for money and all that.
The more times you negotiate with certain products, you start to kind of learn the margin of that distributor. You know where their wiggle room is on certain brands, or if they bring in product for you. Just as a tip for people listening, I have always gotten the best pricing on like a special order. Talking about a certain product, asking if they can specifically bring in 4, 5, 10 pallets of that SKU for us, because they're kind of approaching it like a bid. They're going to go see what the best price they can get you on that product is, because they don't typically carry that many pallets of that item. And they come back and they say, hey, Mike, we can be here. Is this something you can work with? So it's kind of this yin and yang of learning the markup with your distributor. How much do they typically make? But where people go wrong, they come in asking for 50% off on these products, wondering why they're not getting emails.
Right. Yeah. Just offering a lowball offer. That's just kind of, to me, that's like kind of disrespectful. Approach them with honesty and like integrity. That will help you in the long run.
What is one piece of advice you would give to the sellers getting into the wholesale business, that maybe something you've learned in the past year? If there was like one core thing that you could pass down to, someone jumping into the wholesale game.
To anyone who's like an OA seller or RA seller, you're only one distributor away from, having $1 million per year business. So I would say wholesale is a long-term business. If you are, an OA or RA seller, your next step should be focusing on that. And one advice that I would give you is, even if you lose money in the first couple of months, because wholesale is a very slow process, just keep doing it and don't give up. If you think your supplier is not giving you the discount, or they don't really respect your business, just move on, work with a different supplier. You want to build a long-term business with them, and that's why I think wholesale is a great way to do it, as long as you don't give up.
Aryan, we're coming up on about a year since you joined the One Up FBA wholesale program. In your honest opinion, how's your experience been so far, being able to work with me directly, join some of our group sessions, ask questions along the way? Has it helped your business in the past year?
Oh, absolutely. I think, joining your program, the One Up FBA program, was probably the best decision that I've made in my, wholesale, journey. Because in this business, you need to have a guidance. It's not a business where, you just, contact a couple suppliers and you're good and all that. You need to know the steps. You need to be networking with, other like-minded Amazon sellers who have been in this business for, years and all that. Zoom call every week. That I think is one of the greatest thing, because every week we're learning something new. You have different methods of reaching out to suppliers, which is, I think, those are like gold. There's different methods approaching suppliers. So I would say yes. I don't have any regret joining your program. I think that was the best decision, because if I didn't do that, I would not be here doing these numbers or doing FDL and all that. So I'm super thankful.
Now we get to chat a year later on full truckload orders. That's a badass part. That's what's so exciting. Do you have any final statements for anybody watching this? Any words of wisdom? Anything you want to share before we hop off?
Sure. You know, around last year, right around this time, I was struggling. I was, you know, one of these OA sellers. I was struggling finding leads. My orders were getting canceled and all that. My advice to you is, if you're in this business for a long run, I would advise you to join Wholesale as soon as possible. That just makes everything a lot easier in the long run for your business and your goals. But if you're just trying to make, you know, $100,000 in sales per year, stick to OA, just do that. But if you have big dreams, you have big goals, I would say Wholesale, you want to do that as soon as possible because that will just help you in the long run.
Well, thanks again, Aryan, for coming on. I really appreciate you spending the time sharing some gems and your experience with Wholesale. Thank you guys for watching this video. I'll leave any links down in the description below as some resources that you can take advantage of. And I will see you guys in the next video.